Mr. Speaker, the government is concerned about perennial low absorption of donor funds that has denied Kenyans the full benefit of this financing. To remove impediments in the project's implementation and scale up absorption of donor funds, the government will put in place appropriate policies and administrative measures. These may involve reallocation of funds from slow-moving projects or non-startup projects to other priority projects and programs to minimize payments of unnecessary fees and charges. Mr. Speaker, let me turn to the state of our public debt. Our debt remains sustainable despite some of the debt burden indicators deteriorating due to impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has elevated expenditure pressures, reduced revenues, and export earnings. The debt burden is projected to decline over the medium term in line with the fiscal consolidation plan and implementation. Going forward, Mr. Speaker, the government is committed to implement the 2020 medium-term debt strategy, which recommends a shift towards concessional external borrowing and lengthening of maturity structure of the domestic debt. In addition, the debt and borrowing policy approved in early 2020 will guide management of public debt. Mr. Speaker, as an alternative source of finance to fund public projects, the government shall revitalize the public-private partnership framework. Indeed, public-private partnerships have the potential to accelerate economic growth and development by crowding in private sector participation in the financing of capital-intensive infrastructure projects. Mr. Speaker, the reforms in this area will include amending the PPP Act to remove unnecessary approvals and redundant processes, as well as restructure and strengthen institutions responsible for implementing such projects. The government will also streamline and standardize the appropriate credit enhancement tool, including the government letter of support, partial risk guarantees, and indemnity guarantees, as well as viability gap funding where necessary, to enhance bankability of projects. Mr. Speaker, the government, through these arrangements, targets to mobilize approximately $200 billion in the financial year 2020-21 by concluding the financing of several projects that are currently at advanced stage of negotiation. These projects are drawn from, among others, the transport, energy, health, housing, and manufacturing sectors of the economy. Mr. Speaker, let me turn to the highlights of the government spending priorities in the coming financial year. The total program spending for the financial 2020-21, excluding redemptions, amounts to shilling 2.79 trillion. Mr. Speaker, the budget for financial 2020-21 will continue the implementation of the Big Four agenda. Thus, the targeted expenditures prioritize employment creation, youth empowerment, supporting manufacturing activities, enhancing health coverage, improving food security, and living conditions through affordable housing. To support these initiatives, I have set aside shilling 128.3 billion for the Big Four agenda drivers and enablers. Mr. Speaker, the government continues to prioritize healthcare by scaling up universal health coverage to all the counties. To improve health outcomes, I have proposed an allocation of shilling 111.7 billion to the health sector in this budget. Out of this, shilling 50.3 billion is for activities and programs for the attainment of universal health coverage by the drivers and enablers. Mr. Speaker, the budget for the health sector includes shilling 19.2 billion to address and lower cases of HIV, malaria, and tuberculosis in the country. Shilling 6.2 billion for the managed service equipment. Shilling 5.3 billion to transform the healthcare systems for universal health coverage. Shilling 4.1 billion to cater for free maternity health care. And shilling 1.8 billion to provide medical cover for the elderly and severely disabled in our society. Mr. Speaker, other allocations to improve health service delivery includes shilling 15 billion for Kenyatta National Hospital, shilling 10 billion for the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, Kenya shilling 7.2 billion for Kenya Medical Training Centers, Kenya shilling 2.5 billion for the Kenya Medical Research Institute, Kenya shilling 1.2 billion to Madari Hospital, and Kenya shilling 4.3 billion as a conditional grant to level 5 hospitals in the counties. Mr. Speaker, to ensure the success of affordable housing program, the government continues to forge partnerships with the private sector and development partners. In this budget, I have proposed an allocation of Kenya shilling 15.5 billion to the housing, urban development, and public works sector. Out of these, Kenya shilling 6.9 billion will cater for the affordable housing program undertaken by the driver and enablers. We are also concluding discussions to bring on board an additional Kenya shilling 3.6 billion from the African Development Bank, Kenya shilling 7.5 billion for the Kenya Urban Program, and Kenya shilling 1.1 billion for the ongoing construction of Gikomba, Githurai, Chaka, Kamkunji, and Agoreti markets. Mr. Speaker, the government continues to scale up reforms to promote investment in the manufacturing sector to support and protect local industries. To promote local industries, I have proposed an allocation of Kenya shilling 18.3 billion for this cluster. Of these, Kenya shilling 1.4 billion will go to the Kenya Industrial Entrepreneurship Project, Kenya shilling 3.5 billion for the development of Special Economic Zone, Textile Park in Naivasha, Kenanie Leather Industrial Park, and at the River Textile Hub. In addition, Mr. Speaker, I have set aside Kenya shilling 843 million to support modernization of Rivertex, Kenya shilling 800 million for the development of various micro, small, and medium enterprises in Kenya, Kenya shilling 715 million for the Kenya Youth Empowerment and Opportunities Project, Kenya shilling 500 million to support the dairy processing, and Kenya shilling 3 billion for the Ongokundu Special Economic Zone. Mr. Speaker, the government remains committed to reducing the number of food insecure Kenyans. Towards this end, the government will continue to expand irrigation schemes, support large-scale production of staples, increase access to agricultural inputs, implement programs to support smallholder farmers, and promote the use of appropriate farming techniques. Mr. Speaker, to support these initiatives, I have set aside shilling 52.8 billion for food and nutritional security. Out of this, Kenya shilling 10.6 billion has been proposed for the Kenya Climate Smart Agriculture Project.